My name is Tyler, and what happened to me in those woods when I was 17 changed everything I thought I knew about reality. Some places, they're not meant for human eyes. The forest behind my grandmother's property in rural Oregon was one of those places, and I learned it the hard way. It was the summer of 2019. My parents had sent me to stay with my grandmother for 2 months while they sorted out their divorce. Her house sat on 40 acres of dense pine forest, the kind where the trees grow so thick that even at noon, the woods stay dark. She had one single rule: never go past the red markers. Throughout the forest, tied to trees about a quarter-mile in, were strips of faded red cloth. My grandmother never explained why they were there. She'd just get this look in her eyes, distant, afraid, and tell me to stay on the property side of those markers. For the first 3 weeks, I listened. But on a Tuesday in late July, I met Emma. She was visiting her uncle who lived a few miles down the road, and we hit it off immediately. When I told her about my grandmother's weird rule, she laughed. Red markers? That's just old people being superstitious. My uncle says these woods are perfectly safe. She was wrong. We decided to explore past the markers on a Thursday afternoon. The moment we crossed that invisible boundary, I felt it. A pressure in my chest, like the air had thickened. The forest was silent. No birds, no insects, nothing. "This is creepy," Emma whispered, pulling out her phone to record. "My followers are gonna love this." We walked for maybe 20 minutes, filming everything, when we heard it. Whispering, not just one voice. Dozens, hundreds, coming from every direction, speaking in a language I didn't recognize. The sound moved through the trees like wind, but there was no breeze. The air was completely still. Emma grabbed my arm. "Tyler, what is that?" I wanted to run. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back. But the whispers, they were saying something. And somehow, impossibly, I could almost understand them. "Come deeper. We've been waiting. Come see." Emma's phone died. Just like that, full battery to black screen. Mine did the same. The temperature dropped so fast I could see my breath. And it was 80 degrees that day. That's when we saw the trees. They were arranged in a perfect circle. 9 massive pines, their trunks twisted and bent inward, like they were reaching for something in the center. And in the middle of that circle was a hole. Not a natural hole. This thing was perfectly round, about 6 feet across, descending straight down into absolute darkness. The whispers were coming from inside it. "We need to leave. Now." I grabbed Emma's hand, but she wasn't moving. She was staring into that hole, tears streaming down her face. "They're saying my name," she whispered. "Tyler, they know my name. They're saying they've been waiting for me since before I was born." I physically pulled her back, and she fought me. She screamed at me, clawed at my arms, desperate to get closer to that hole. I'd never seen anything like it. Her eyes were completely black, even the whites. I dragged her. I don't know how I did it, but I dragged her kicking and screaming all the way back to those red markers. The second we crossed them, she collapsed. Emma didn't remember anything. She woke up confused, asking why we were on the ground. But I remembered. I remembered everything. When I got back to my grandmother's house, she was waiting on the porch. She looked at me and just nodded, like she knew exactly what had happened. "Your grandfather put up those markers in 1967, she finally told me. "After his brother went into those woods and came back different. He dug that hole, Tyler, with his bare hands. It took him 6 days. He never spoke again, just dug until he broke through to something. On the 7th day, he walked into it and never came out." She pulled out an old photograph, black and white, dated 1967. It showed a man standing next to that same circle of twisted trees. But the hole wasn't there yet. "That picture was taken before my brother-in-law went missing," she said. "Those trees have been twisted like that for over 100 years. Whatever's down there, it's been waiting a long time, and it's patient." I left Oregon 3 days later. Emma and I never spoke again. Her family moved away that same week. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear them. The whispers. They're quieter now, more distant. But they're there. And they're still saying my name. I haven't gone into any forest since. And I never will again. My name is Rebecca, and I need to tell you about the trail that doesn't exist. If you ever go hiking in the Appalachian Mountains, and you see a trail marker that's painted blue instead of white, turn around. Don't ask questions. Don't take pictures. Just leave. I was 24 and going through a brutal breakup when I decided to hike the Appalachian Trail. Not the whole thing. Just a 2-week section through North Carolina. I needed to clear my head. Reconnect with nature. All that therapeutic stuff people talk about. I was 6 days in when I saw it. A trail marker, but it was painted bright blue. Every Appalachian Trail marker is white. That's standard. But this one, nailed to a tree about 20 feet off the main path, was unmistakably blue. And below it, carved into the bark, were words. Shorter route, 3 miles to shelter. The next official shelter on my map was 8 miles away. My feet were killing me. My pack felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. 3 miles sounded like a gift from God. I took the blue trail. For the first mile, everything seemed normal. The trail was well maintained, even nicer than the main path. The trees were thick, but not oppressive. I actually felt good about my decision. Then I started seeing the signs. Little wooden posts, every quarter mile or so, with hand-painted messages. Almost there. Keep going. Don't turn back. That last one made my stomach drop. Why would a trail sign tell you not to turn back? I checked my compass. I was heading north, which was correct. But something felt wrong. The sun was setting, and the shadows were falling in the wrong direction. I know that sounds crazy, but I've done enough hiking to know where shadows should be at 6 p.m. These shadows were coming from the west, not the east. That's when I heard the footsteps behind me. I turned around. The trail behind me was empty, but I could hear them clearly, boots on dirt, steady and rhythmic, maybe 30 feet back. I called out. No answer. Just those footsteps, getting closer. I started walking faster. The footsteps matched my pace. I jogged. They jogged. I ran. They ran. I burst into a clearing and stopped dead. There was a shelter, just like the sign promised. But it was wrong. The wood was ancient, rotting, covered in moss. And surrounding it were things. Objects. Dozens of backpacks, arranged in a perfect circle around the structure. Some looked new. Some looked decades old. And every single one of them was open, empty, with the contents scattered around like whoever carried them had just vanished. I saw a wallet. Opened it. Driver's license from 1987. A man named Christopher Hughes. I pulled out my phone to call for help, but there was no service. The screen glitched, showing the date as January 1st, 1970. That's when I looked at the shelter door. It was covered in scratches. Deep gouges in the wood, like someone had clawed at it from the inside for hours. And in the center, carved with what must have been fingernails, were words. IT walks at night. It wears our faces. It's been me for 3 days. Destroy this place. The footsteps had stopped. The forest was silent. And then, from inside the shelter, I heard my own voice. Rebecca, is that you? I've been looking everywhere for you. Come inside, it's getting dark. I ran. I didn't follow any trail. I just crashed through the forest in blind panic. Branches tore at my face. Roots tried to trip me, but I didn't stop. Behind me, my voice kept calling, sometimes pleading, sometimes angry. Rebecca, please. Why are you running from yourself? I don't know how I found the main trail. I don't remember most of that run, but suddenly I was back on white markers, and the sun was rising, even though it should have been setting. I'd lost 12 hours somehow. When I stumbled into the next town, rangers told me there was no blue trail. They checked maps, satellite images, everything. The area I described was a sheer cliff face, impossible to hike. But when they sent a helicopter to verify, the pilot saw something. Just for a moment before clouds rolled in, he showed me the photo. A perfect circle of dead trees, and in the center, a structure. The same shelter. But the photo showed 23 backpacks arranged around it. When I went in, there were 22. My backpack was never found. I still hike, but I check every marker obsessively. And sometimes, on quiet trails when I'm alone, I hear footsteps behind me. I never turn around, because I'm terrified I'll see myself walking back there, wearing my face, carrying my backpack. Some trails don't lead anywhere. They just take. My name is James, and I used to be a park ranger in Tongass National Forest in Alaska. Used to be. We had protocols for everything in that forest. Bear encounters, lost hikers, emergency evacuations. But we had one rule that wasn't in any manual. One rule that was passed down verbally from ranger to ranger. Never investigate the drums. Tongass is the largest national forest in the United States. Nearly 17 million acres of temperate rainforest. My station covered a remote section that saw maybe 50 visitors a year. Mostly researchers and extreme backpackers. It was isolated, quiet, and exactly what I wanted after 8 years in the Army. The drum started my third night on duty. I was doing a perimeter check around midnight when I heard it, a deep, rhythmic beating coming from somewhere north of the station. Boom, 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 like a massive war drum, echoing through the trees. I radioed my supervisor, weathered guy named Frank who'd worked Tongass for 30 years. Frank, you hearing this? Long silence. Then, stay inside, James. Lock the doors. Don't go looking for it. What is it? I don't know. Nobody knows. But every ranger who's gone looking for those drums, they don't come back the same. If they come back at all. For 3 hours, I listened to those drums. They never stopped, never changed pace. Just that steady boom, boom, boom. I tried to sleep but couldn't. The sound got inside my head, synced with my heartbeat. At 3 a.m., I made a mistake. I looked at the security camera pointed north into the forest. We had 6 cameras around the station, mostly for monitoring wildlife. The north camera showed the trail leading into deep woods, and at the very edge of the frame, barely visible, were people, dozens of them, standing in a circle in the darkness. They weren't moving, just standing there, facing inward. The drums were louder now, and I realized they were coming from the center of that circle. I zoomed in. These weren't hikers. They were wearing old clothes. Some looked like they were from the 70s, others even older. And they were all wrong. Their postures, the way they stood too still, like mannequins. Then, simultaneously, all of them turned and looked directly at the camera. My radio crackled. Frank's voice, but distorted. James, did you look? Frank, there are people out there. Lots of them. I need to. Do not go outside. Do you understand me? No matter what you see, no matter what you hear, stay inside. The drums stopped. The sudden silence was worse than the noise. And then I heard the footsteps on the station roof. Heavy, deliberate footsteps, walking from end to end. Back and forth. Back and forth. Something knocked on the door. 3 times. Then a voice, perfectly calm. Ranger James Chun, we've been waiting for you. It's time for your night watch. It was my voice. My exact voice. I looked at the security monitor. The circle of people was gone. But standing directly in front of my door, facing away from the camera, was someone wearing my ranger uniform. Same build. Same posture. The thing knocked again. James, let me in. I'm you. I've been out here all night. I'm cold. I grabbed my radio. Frank, there's something. I know. They come every few months. Pick a ranger. Usually the new ones. You cannot open that door, James. No matter what it says. no matter what it sounds like. The drumming started again, louder, faster, and now I could hear chanting, dozens of voices speaking in unison, words I couldn't understand, but that made my teeth hurt. The thing outside started laughing. "You're going to have to leave eventually, James. In the morning, in a week. Doesn't matter. We're patient. We've been here for 10,000 years. We can wait." I stayed in that station for 4 days. The thing never left. Every few hours it would knock, sometimes sounding like me, sometimes like my mother, once like my dead brother. The drums never stopped. The chanting continued day and night. On the 4th day, a helicopter finally extracted me. As we lifted off, I looked down at the station. There were hundreds of them, filling the clearing, standing shoulder to shoulder, all looking up at me. And in the center, still wearing my uniform, was the thing that had my voice. It waved. Frank met me at headquarters. He looked older, tired. "You did good, kid. Most don't make it past the second night." "What are they?" "Old. Older than the forest. Older than the Ice Age. The native tribes around here have stories about them. The ones who drum. They're looking for something, trying to call something back. And they need hosts. People to wear." He pulled out a file folder, marked with red tape. Inside were photographs. Dozens of rangers over the decades, standing in front of stations, posed for official photos. "These are all the rangers who heard the drums and went looking," Frank said. "Notice anything?" I looked closer. In each photo, far in the background, barely visible in the tree line, were figures. The same figures. And in the most recent photos, I could make out faces. They were the missing rangers, standing in the forest, wearing their own uniforms, watching. The ones who went looking didn't disappear, James. They joined. They're still out there. And once a year, during the darkest nights, they come back. They drum. They call. They wait for someone new. Frank handed me one last photo. This was taken yesterday, during your extraction. It was an aerial shot of the station during the helicopter rescue. And there, in the crowd of figures surrounding the building, enlarged and circled in red, was someone I recognized. Frank himself, standing with the others, wearing his ranger uniform from 20 years ago. I looked up at him. He looked back with eyes that were just slightly wrong. Too dark, too still. "Your night watch isn't over, James," he said, smiling. "It's just beginning. We all serve eventually." I ran. I quit that day and moved to Phoenix, as far from forests as I could get. But 3 months ago, I heard them again. The drums. Faint and distant, but there, coming from the park near my apartment. Last week, I found myself standing at the edge of the tree line at 3 a.m. I don't remember walking there. And as I stood in the darkness, I realized I was humming along with drums only I could hear. They're patient. They're coming. And I think I'm starting to understand what they want. If you ever hear drums in the forest at night, run and never look back. Because once they choose you, once they start calling your name in the rhythm of their beating, you'll always find your way back to them.